Resident Evil 2.
You know, it's so much less intimidating when he gets to the 2. It almost sounds like he's smiling at the end, but not an evil, knowing smile, just a creepy old dude smile. The first game's Resident Evil is so much scarier.
Resident Evil.
The 2 here just makes him sound like a creepy grandpa or something. As you all may know, part of this channel is me catching up on an old game series I never got around to and critically analyzing them to the point of absurdity. I've done 3 videos on the first Resident Evil remake, which I highly recommend watching before this one. Today we're starting with Resident Evil 2, the classic one. I'm doing the classic game because the remake of RE2 is so fundamentally different from this one that they're arguably incomparable in some aspects, so I'll cover that one at a later date. This is the GameCube port of the original, which I chose due to its improved visuals and accessibility. From my research, the port doesn't have any drastic changes from the original PS1 game, so it should be an authentic experience. The changes that are here are as follows. In-game cutscenes can now be skipped, the title screen voice is actually a little different, so maybe it was more intimidating beforehand. There's a GameCube-specific control scheme due to its odd controller, and apparently the credits have a few changes as well, but that's pretty much it. With all of that established, let's get into the game. As always, I'll be spoiling it entirely, so be wary of that if you haven't played. Just like the first game, we can pick between 2 characters to start. I chose Leon as I have a bit of history with him, having played Resident Evil 4 a few years ago. Leon's story starts with a recap of the first game, about the mansion explosion and the T-virus bioweapon, and how Jill and Chris are trying to investigate the subject more. We learn that Umbrella's experiments are far from over, and we cut to Leon zooming through Raccoon City to start his first day on the job as a new cop. We witness a truck driver getting bitten by something as he rides off, and Leon comments on how much of a mess everything is before being surrounded by zombies himself.
Man, what a mess! What could have done this? What was that? What are these things? All right, that's far enough. Don't move! Don't move! No!
Turning into an alley, we find Claire, who I know to be Chris's brother. Leon heroically saves her and the 2 speed off into the night. Radios are out and no one knows what's going on. Soon, the semi-driver appears as Leon provides Claire with a gun, but then a zombie appears from the back and causes a crash as the semi tows along behind them.
That maniac's gonna ram I'll meet you there.
Okay.
We witness a massive explosion, and our 2 heroes are separated by an unescapable destiny? The camera cuts to our first official gameplay segment. Good to see that static camera back. It takes me a second to get used to tank controls, but I run through the zombies knowing I need to save ammo from the first game. Fortunately, we enter a gun shop, but the shopkeeper holds me up thinking I'm a zombie. We quickly clear things up and learn the shopkeeper doesn't know anything either, before telling me we're safe in here as he's
keeping a close eye on things.
I find some pistol ammo in the back, and Mr. Close Eye here gets absolutely swarmed by zombies that bust through his window. I scramble to put the aim and shoot actions into my muscle memory and get attacked by a downed zombie in the game's first real battle. Great. Leon and I head out the back of the shop into an alleyway and gun down some more zombies while enjoying a brilliant top-down camera angle that really adds to the tension. I don't know exactly what's coming at me, and even if I can see the monsters, my player perspective is so tilted here that I'm not sure I could effectively aim and kill them. I also don't love that the bodies twitch even when they're dead. It makes me think they're just gonna come back to life, and that's terrifying, and I'm sure that's the point. I wonder why Leon can't use the stairs until realizing I have to press A for him to start the animation. God, what it must be like to have played games back then. I was about 3 or 4 years old, so no way I was playing games like RE2. Back in my day, we had games where you could just walk up the stairs. We climb on top of a dumpster to fight off 2 zombies and clear out another alleyway that leads to some destroyed storefronts. I turn to find a cop getting mauled by zombies and push my way through to a nearby bus. Of course, there are zombies in the bus as well, and I take this time to try out Leon's other equipped weapon, his shotgun, and I blow a dude in half. That part is cool, but then his top half starts crawling toward me, so that ain't great. I waste a shotgun shot on him and get mauled by a zombie outside. Game over. This is just like my experience with the first game, getting absolutely wrecked in the game's initial 5 minutes. I make my way back to the bus using way less ammo and clear it out. Step back to the spot where I died and simply run past everyone to avoid a similar situation. Looks like the muscle memory of these tank controls is coming back, which I'm quite thankful for. I make my way to the police station courtyard, clearing a few zombies out of it before walking inside. I'm already adapting much better than I did playing Remake for the first time. Back then I couldn't even dodge past a zombie. Now I can fluidly move through an area while gunning down zombies as I see fit. At least, relatively well. All doors in the police station lobby are locked except for one. Walking in, I find a cop taken down by zombies, and he informs me that my party has been canceled. How depressing.
Who are you? Oh, you must be the new guy. Leon. Sorry, but it looks like your party has been canceled.
The man then details the events that took place after the first game to catch us all up. That Chris and Jill tried telling people about the fucked up scenario at Spencer Mansion, which is based in Raccoon City's outskirts. They tried building an investigation and warning others, which, you know, I would hope they'd do after seeing what they did. Thing is, no one believed them, and to be fair, the events there were a bit unbelievable, so I can't blame anyone too much. Shortly afterward, however, the T-virus spread throughout the city as our 2 heroes warned it would. We're now at the point where
All this started to happen.
The dying cop gives me a keycard, a homie move for sure, and tells me to save others in the station. Leon swears he'll save the guy despite his claims that it's far too late.
Just go.
Fine, but I'm coming back for you. Just hold on.
And we head off on our own while the man locks the door behind us. I finagle with the doors, thinking that this guy just gave me a joke card, before realizing it actually unlocks doors from the front desk computer. Hell yeah. I head through a door near the front and take down a small horde of zombies with my pistol. Reviewing the gameplay footage, I count 5 zombies, but it felt like a lot more in the moment, and I can hear more down the hall. I duck into a side room only to be swarmed yet again. Capcom really doesn't give its players a break in these older games, and I honestly find that fantastic. I love the challenge. The angle switches, and Leon and I find ourselves in a room with all of the officers' desks. I bet one of these was going to be his. We find the first of our series staple, the green herb, behind the chief's desk, alongside a locked safe with a 4-digit code in which 4th is spelt wrong. I've got no idea what this could be, so Leon limps on out of there to search the rest of the room. While exploring, a zombie grabs my leg and I stomp its head through. Should have double tapped when I first walked in. I don't really find much, so we head out back to the hallway and heal up with an extra green herb. It also turns out I was wrong and there aren't any more zombies down this hallway, despite thinking I heard them. You know, I'll take being wrong. It ends up being better for Leon and I. The next hallway has some more zombie bodies and I remember to double tap this time. Even then, the bodies are still twitching, which is so freaking eerie and I despise it. I find a door with a diamond shape engraved under the handle, and history dictates that when a door handle has an engraved symbol on it, the key has a matching one. A different door takes me to an interrogation room with a see-through mirror and a small key, but there's no design on the key, so it's probably just a key for some boring place. There's an item through the mirror I can't get to right now, but the hallway's other door has a club engraving under its handle. Otherwise, we reach a dead end, and I think it's safe to assume this set of keys is based on suits of cards, huh? Back in the office, I learn there's a room I missed with a door that leads outside. There's a set of stairs to the second floor, and this is the only way I can get up there so far. Or maybe not, since this door is locked too. Then I remember there's a whole other door back in the front room. In here, I find the first item box and a document detailing a police station rearrangement. The only important thing here, though, is a code to that safe from before, so I can just leave the rest be. Just because I'm curious, I look at the way this game organizes files, and this is honestly heinous. Just 3 colored books with tabs for found notes? Hopefully I won't have to use this much, as I have no idea how I'd find anything important. I used the boring small key to open a small desk in the back and find some extra handgun ammo. Told you it would be lame. I have a lot of this ammo so far, but probably because I'm playing on easy this first time around. The next door leads to a hallway with some locked doors and dripping blood? We cut to a cinematic of Leon's gorgeous young face, looking up to see a venom-looking thing with its brain exposed on the ceiling. It drops down in real time, and I'm reminded of that scene in Remake, with the zombie in the hallway cutscene before the game cuts to real time and you have to move fast to not get bit. In this game, Leon actually backs up a bit in the cutscene, and fortunately I have my shotgun equipped, so I wreck the thing even if it does get a swipe in. But our main man is somehow fine, so I guess it's okay. The next hallway is full of boarded up windows and some ominous green lighting. A side door leads to what looks like a classroom, and I find a document detailing the first attack on the station. We learn that many were killed and communications were destroyed. Also, this takes place 6 days after my birthday. Isn't that exciting? The document also reveals a plan the police have to, quote, prevent this disaster from spreading beyond Raccoon City. Judging by what I know about the later games, that certainly doesn't happen. Interestingly, this note also states that the police chief, Irons, ordered everyone to spread out the station's weapons the day before the attack to prevent terrorists from seizing them, and I don't really know what that means considering terrorists should have a pretty hard time getting into the police station. But what I do know is spreading out guns makes it pretty hard to get to them during a zombie apocalypse, and I don't know, this timing is pretty sus. We also learn that there's still a considerable supply of guns and ammos in the underground weapons storage, but of course they're missing the key and the guy who holds it. Also, the power's out in most places in the station, and they want to restore it. Damn, this place was a mess. It's no wonder everyone here is dead. The rest of the report details various deaths within the station and describes the venom-like monster I saw earlier, calling it a licker. Creative. I searched the room to find more pistol ammo, some vending machines, and an interesting back area with a strangely situated fireplace and medieval knights. Seriously, this place is weird. Like, why is there a painting above a fireplace called A Sacrifice to the Hellfire in some tiny back room in a police station? I don't find anything else of note, so I head back to the hallway, walking very slowly so I can hear any threats. A room at the end of the hallway leads to another hallway, but this one's full of zombies. Since I'm surrounded, I waste my shotgun ammo on these hoes, and oh my god, one of their top halves is crawling at Leon, while another's arm gets stuck on him. What the hell is going on? This lady is in half. It's too early for this shit. My pistol takes out the rest of the zombies, and I find another safe room next to a set of stairs that reminds me quite a bit of the safe room next to a set of stairs from the first game. A pretty neat reference. In the back of the safe room, I find a film development station, which a police station would need, especially in a time before video was big. But knowing this doesn't make me feel more comfortable about how dark it is. I don't feel like going up these stairs just yet either, so I head back to the safe on the other side of the station. 2236 is the code, and inside I find some shotgun shells and a map. Not a bad find, but I feel like I'm missing something, so I head back to the interrogation room, and looking back, I guess this is obvious, but I can't grab the item through the so-called magic mirror. This makes sense in the grand scheme of things, but I figured the word magic actually meant like a magical item, but I guess it's just a reference to a double-sided mirror. Point is, I tried shooting and stabbing through the glass, and that didn't work. I head back to the safe room and brave the stairs. Fortunately, nothing comes at me right away, but I'm ready with my shotgun out. Walking down the hall, I find a locked door and some creepy statues talking about the sun and the moon and how they must gaze upon the center statue to release the red soul. Man, imagine you're just new here and you see a statue that reads all of this. Like, what the hell? By reading the texts, I understand I need to make the side statues look at the middle one, but I assume I need a switch or something to do that at a later date. I kind of forgot you can just push things around in this game, but we'll just ignore that basic fact for now and get back to it later. I promise I'm good at games. The next room features some zombified policemen I take out with no problems whatsoever. There's a twitching body at the end of the hall, but it doesn't grab me, so I guess we're good for now. I find what looks like a communications room that contains a trophy for best marksman. Turns out Chris won it. Good for him. What a neat Easter egg. Thanks, Capcom. Examining the desks, we find Chris's diary. We're learning all about our boy. Leon takes a look, which seems violating, but hey, Chris probably knows something we don't, considering he has dealt with these zombies already. In his diary, Chris breaks down how the chief simply won't believe him about the umbrella incident and that the mansion blew up, so there isn't any proof proof of it all. That and almost everyone in town is employed by Umbrella, so they won't talk either. And he doesn't know what to do. Only a week and a half later, the station is receiving reports of monsters surrounding the city. But Jill, Barry, and Chris discover Umbrella's research on a successor to the T-Virus, the much more terrifyingly named G-Virus. The trio heads to Umbrella's HQ in Europe to take this on, and Chris notes that he won't tell Claire so he could keep her safe. Ironically, now she's at the police station during all of this to try and find him, so good job, buddy, you did well. Speak of the devil, Claire appears and Leon reveals that he just snooped through Chris's diary, though she doesn't seem too fazed that we totally violated her brother's privacy. She then recommends we split up again, which doesn't sound like a great idea, but hey, I guess that's what Resident Evil characters do. So I'm not even fazed at this point. Leon also gives her a radio so they can communicate from a distance. We find another shotgun in a locker, which is actually pretty annoying because it takes up another inventory slot and I can't transfer the ammo from one shotgun to another. This bothers me more than it should, and I end up thinking about it for way too long after not being able to grab a first aid spray. But alas, I have to move on if I want to survive. Further down that hallway is another locked door, so I head back to the safe room to regroup and organize my things. I'm taking the other hallway back to the main part of the station when holy shit, a ton of zombie arms break through the boarded up windows and scare the hell out of me. One group of them grabs me further down the hall before they all just disappear, which is honestly more frightening than them jump scaring me in the first place. The main lobby has a spot for me to put this unicorn medal I found earlier, which drops a spade engraved key so I can open more doors. Staring at the map, I realize that the doors are color-coded by key, which is a nice touch, so I don't have to waste time going to doors that I might be able to open. Instead, the map just tells me which key goes where. I head back the way I just came from and use the spade key for the first time. This unlocks some sort of documentation storage room. And here I find that on my birthday, September 20th, the station received reports of a suspicious individual skulking around the sewers near Raccoon City. A police sergeant searched the area and actually found the guy, but then he ran away before anyone could question him. But the sergeant did recover some C4, a detonator, some ammo, and a broken infrared scope. So our guest is obviously up to something weird. I see an item on top of this bookshelf that I can't reach. There's a ladder, but again, I forgot I can push things in this damn game, so it takes me a sec to get up there. Turns out I did all of that work for a crank, which is disappointing on the surface, but in reality, that's probably pretty useful considering how important a crank was in the first game. I do some inventory reorganizing at the safe room and head back upstairs and down the hall to unlock the last spade key related door. In here we find a vending machine and hella zombies eating something on the ground we can assume is a body. I shotgun them down and two of their top halves come crawling at me, which is just the worst, before I kill them too. 2 dead with 1 shotgun shell. I'm proud of you, Leon. Down one hallway is some ammo and a nailed door, but the other hall leads me to a library of sorts. Here there's some ominous ass bookcases and switches to move them left and right, but they don't work right now. Up some stairs, however, I find a broken railing, drop down, and find a switch that activates the power to those bookshelves. There's also a metal plate with the same symbols as on the bookshelves. I quickly put together that I must line them up in a certain order to correlate with the design on the plate. Upon doing so, I find a bishop plug. So we've got card suit and chess piece symbolism now. So someone designing all these weird puzzles must have really liked games. Kind of feels like Leon is trapped in some sick game, so this is all adding up. I head through another door up the stairs and find a sort of mechanics room with a bunch of rusted gears. I use the square-shaped crank from earlier to lower some stairs and head even higher to find a machine missing a whole gear. Looks like I gotta find that now. Back in the library are some double doors that lead to the top floor of the main lobby. I find a ladder that unlocks a shortcut between these two areas and wipe out some zombies for good measure. On the other side of this floor is another safe room with a small key and a secretary's diary. The secretary details a time when they accidentally moved one of the stone statues on the second floor by leaning on it, which should have tipped me off about the puzzle with the sun and the moon statues, but I can assure you it did not. For some reason, I guess I'm too dense for these obvious clues. The secretary was absolutely reamed by the police chief for moving the statues before noting that the chief's art collection is literally worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The secretary then details how strange it is that the chief can afford such expensive art pieces, and that's a good point. They then reminisce on the chief bringing in that creepy painting hanging above the fireplace, which, again, should have given me some sort of clue about something, but it didn't because I guess my mind was elsewhere. The next hallway over features another exciting cop zombie to turn down before one on fire comes around the corner, which may or may not have made me yell in real life. I turn to see a chopper crashed into the building, set on fire, and blocking off a hallway that I'd like to explore, so that's a bit of a pain. I take an alternative path around, which is full of crows that swarm Leon and really just harsh my vibe because I'm used to the slower zombies. What the hell are these crows doing here? Go away. I understand that they were in the first game, but that mansion blew up. Why are they still here? At the end of this next hallway is a rooftop with water pressure controls, but I can't adjust the pressure for now. I head down some stairs, gun down some more creepers, and find a pump control room. I assume that I should be able to put out the fire by activating the station's sprinkler system, right? And here I find a valve handle and some additional ammo before getting mugged by some zombies at the freaking loading screen in the next room over. Turns out there weren't any controls in that room. I was just meant to find the valve handle, which plugs into that pressurized pipe up top. The fire is now out. I walk into the originally blocked off room and find a ton of random art that I can assume is the chief's. There's an uncomfortable armored statue with chains on it that reads, Tyrannos the Brave revives with 2 lights. Neat, I guess. I find a diamond engraved key in the corner, but my inventory is full, so I have to drop off other things before grabbing it. That's what I get for keeping ink ribbons on me instead of dumping them in the box. After grabbing the key, I find a door to that outside stairwell leading to the first floor. Back on the west side of the station, I use the diamond engraved key to open a door near the stairwell, blow down even more zombies, double tap for good measure, and find some film in a storage locker that I should probably develop. Other lockers have things like shotgun ammo, but nothing too important. The next door, though, takes me back to the room with that officer that Leon said he'd save. I walk in and he actually seems okay from behind, but then a cutscene starts and nope, he's a zombie. Wow, Leon, you couldn't even keep your word. On the desk next to him is a heart key that I can't grab right now due to a full inventory yet again. I unlock the door leading back to the station lobby, really appreciating all these shortcuts by the way, and do a scan for other items and documents I may be missing. Then I head to the eastern part of the station to finish up the diamond engraved doors. After opening one door, it turns out I'm on the other side of the magic mirror. I find another chess piece plug, the rook plug, and a freaking liquor breaks through the other side of the glass. This one really caught me off guard since I've been in that opposite room many times before and it was always empty. Here I was thinking I was safe until Capcom had to make me shit my pants again. The room also contains a cord, which is probably useful, so I nab that, but I need that heart key, so I gotta get back to the dead officer for a second. Thing is, I get distracted along the way by finding a use for that cord in the West Wing. Attaching it to a control panel lowers some security doors for the broken windows, which makes me feel super safe. Leon comments saying it won't last, so that isn't ideal, but I guess we'll see. Along the way, I re-enter that classroom and I see that fireplace, which reminds me of Chris having a lighter from the first game. It was used to light a furnace. I check and Leon has a lighter as well, which he uses to burn up that unsettling image. What a nice callback to the first game. I love that, and it's a great way to lead players along without being too obvious. You're rewarded for playing the first game by recognizing a puzzle from before, but it's also a puzzle new players can pick up on relatively quickly because, well, fire and fireplace. Duh. Inside the image is what looks like a red rupee from Zelda, but this one is much more lame and simply called a jewel. I assume I use this to help free Tyrannos, the intimidating statue. Since I'm by the darkroom, I head in to develop a piece of film and opened up an inventory slot. The photo develops to show some creepy ass eyeball creature with a giant arm, or so it seems. Entitled Code G Human Body Experiment, I can assume this is what happened to a human after being injected with the G virus. Finally, I head back to the dead officer to grab that heart engraved key, and it turns out there was a document in here that I missed. It's a welcome letter from all the officers to Leon on his very first day. That explains all the party hats, and hopefully finding this makes today a little better for our boy. But then again, maybe it doesn't because all these people are now dead and he has to think about that. God, this tone is depressing. I head to my first heart key door behind the room with the safe, which leads me down a terrifying hallway full of broken windows. I walk down slowly with my shotgun out just in case before heading down some stairs to a basement of sorts, full of more creepy hallways. My hallway opens up into the middle of another where zombie dogs surround me on either side, and I really wish I just stayed back, but I heard things and got curious, you know? What's even scarier is the one behind me doesn't attack right away, leaving things even more tense until I finally get the first one killed. A thoughtful little trap, no? Even if I killed the first one right away, the second would have surprised me and done some damage regardless. Hell, even knowing both are there, I'm not sure how to tackle the situation without getting hurt. I come across a sort of maintenance room, and hey look! It's a green herb, almost as if Capcom knew those dogs would have me wrecked. Thanks guys. Those herbs are probably only because I'm on easy though. I bet when I play on a harder difficulty, the game won't be so forgiving. Near the herb is a reserve power breaker, but I can't use all the power at once to turn it on. It's a small puzzle that has me adding and lowering power based on 5 switches. I fortunately hit the right combination on my first try, hitting the 80, which is the threshold before the power blows, thank hell. That power turns on a control panel that appears to be in another area. I loot the rest of this room for a basement map, and back to the hall we go. Turns out I turned on a card reader with that breaker, but I have no card to read. Most of the doors down here are locked off to me for various reasons, but I do find some double doors that are actually open. With flies on the lamps and trash bags lining the walls, it's safe to say we've entered some dumping area for crap no one wants. This space leads out into a longer alley though, where I didn't see a zombie dog waiting to ambush me from above. He acts right as the camera switches angles, and while trying to get ready, another one comes from the other side. They pulled the double dog ambush again, just when we thought we were off the hook for a bit. Fortunately, both dogs end up going in front of Leon, so I fire my last shotgun shell and pull out the pistol to finish them off. Leon's hurt again, so I decide not to go down this open manhole into the sewers for now. Instead, I head back a few rooms to the green herb that I left and drop off that crystal near Tyrannos to clear up an inventory slot. I got lost more than once during this time though. I don't know why, but I can't follow this map nearly as well as I did the one in Remake. Maybe it's because that one had more detail since it was made at a later time with new tech, but in RE2 Classic, I'm referring to the map much less than I did in Remake. That said, it's not too hard to remember where everything is, as the police station is full of distinctive rooms, so we have a bit of a trade-off here. I just need to beat my ADHD and pay extra attention to my surroundings. Don't know if you know this, but ADHD makes it really hard to follow directions and retain information like this. Instead of heading back to the sewer, I go the other way in that initial room where I was double dog ambushed, only to find a garage with some perfectly clean looking cars inside. But then there's a gunshot. The camera cuts to a girl who thought I was a zombie thanks to my uniform, which is kind of hilarious because that insinuates the RPD can't handle themselves and they're all just zombies. She introduces herself as Ada Wong, a name I have definitely heard before in another RE game, and claims she's looking for a reporter named Barry? Or so I thought. Again, the audio mixing in this game isn't great and there aren't any subtitles, but I would have been surprised if Capcom reused the name Barry in 2 games in a row. Later on I hear the name pronounced clearer as Ben, which makes a lot more sense. Ada says Ben is locked away here, but the entrance to the cells is blocked by a car. Ada asks Leon for help moving a Raccoon Police Department truck that's in the way. I love how Leon, on his first day as a cop, just goes along with her freeing some dude who was locked up. He doesn't even question why the guy was in there or anything, he just agrees to help. We slowly push the truck out of the way to reveal a door. Wow! After going through it, Ada simply runs off despite Leon's yelling, and I'm left alone, once again, in a dimly lit hallway. It's like RE1 all over again. I head through a door nearby and find 2 dogs locked up in cells. They make both Leon and I flinch at the same time before I gun them down with the pistol. I know these dogs aren't a threat right now, but who knows if that'll change in the future. Knowing what little I do about Resident Evil, I feel like they'd come back to quite literally bite me in the ass if I left them alive. Plus, there's a sewer cap I can't open yet, so we can be sure that I'll be back here at a later date. Might as well use the ammo and clean house while I can. At the other end of that dimly lit hallway is a wire door and an empty cell with green herbs. The next cell, however, houses Ben.
Let me guess. You must be Ben, right? Get up, now!
Our resident genius here guesses his name and orders him to get up in the toughest act Leon has pulled since the game started. Then suddenly Ada arrives? I got here before her?
Is this the guy?
Ben, you told the city officials that you knew something about what's been going on, didn't you? What did you tell them?
And who the heck are you?
Apparently Ben knew something others didn't about the impending local apocalypse and told the police. Ada asks Ben what he knows, but he wants to know who she is first, which is kind of fair. Ada says she's looking for her boyfriend John, who used to work for Umbrella, but disappeared 6 months ago. I feel like that's a lie, but whatever. Ben claims he wants to remain in his cell for safety reasons, but we soon hear a yell from down the hall.
What was that?
Like I said, I'm not leaving this cell. Get out of here before you lead it right to me.
Turns out, Ben doesn't know that all the police have died. Leon actually reveals he's the last standing cop, which seems to take Ben's guard down a little bit. Our prisoner explains that we must go into the sewers to get out of the city, hence that sewer cap I ran into earlier. Funny how he knows that.
Look, if you want to live, then you're gonna have to leave with me.
But do you even know how to get out of the city? There's a kennel in the back of the building. Inside the kennel is a manhole. Go through and it'll lead you to the sewer entrance, but it won't be easy.
All right, I'm going.
Next to Ben is a very convenient manhole opener. I grab that as Ada disappears again and head to the manhole to get down and dirty. Right away there's a massive spider that scares the living hell out of me. Somehow these are much scarier than the ones in Remake, and in case you didn't see my video on the first game, know that I absolutely despise spiders. They're one of the only creatures I simply can't stand being around, both in games and in real life. Apparently Capcom knew I would eventually do a video series on their franchise and thought to put them in to scare me a little extra. Thanks guys. I kill one spider who simply won't come down from the ceiling and shoot him a couple of times after as he falls to make sure he's really dead. Then another swarms me from around the corner and I ain't taking any chances, so it's shotgun time. The shotgun blows this spider into pieces, but Leon comes out of the encounter poisoned, so it wasn't a perfect victory. But at least the spiders are dead. Through the sewer is a safe room and the game's first blue herb that I found, which, as you probably know, is used to cure poison. I save and do some inventory management before heading out to find a gate to the septic pool that's as locked as can be. There's an open door next to the gate, however, which leads into a room with tons of pumps and pipes. There's a massive metal door in here next to a control panel, and it turns out this panel is what the chess pieces are for. I only have 2 pieces right now, so I insert them in and head back out. Ada appears at the gate, which is super convenient, and Leon finally introduces himself like the gentleman he is.
I don't think I've introduced myself yet. My name's Leon. I'm with the RPD. It's a dead end.
She says nothing to his introduction, but after some long silence, she states that Leon can lift her into the vents to get around this gate. Here I was thinking she'd just open it like Atreus would in God of War, but instead the perspective switches and I actually get to play as her. That's pretty neat. Capcom totally could have just had her open the door and keep us playing as Leon, but nah, they decided to subvert some expectations. We love to see it. It also doesn't break the design of Resident Evil because both games have had you playing as different characters so far. Ada only has a pistol, some first aid spray, and a photo of what looks like a couple, so I have to be a little more careful playing as her for sure. My attempt to keep her alive involves killing 2 dogs and solving a puzzle where I had to move boxes around to make a path across this flooded gap. Hey, there's a puzzle like this in Remake too, where you first get into the underground lab. That one's a lot simpler though, as you just push the boxes in the water in a line. Here I have to head down and reorganize the crates before refilling the gap to cross. I'm ashamed to admit that this took me longer than expected because I forgot you can step on top of things in this game. I needed to step over one box to get to the other. I wasted a fair amount of time looking for a control panel or some other external way to move the boxes before realizing this. Not proud of this, okay? Hey look, across the gap is a key with a club engraving, the final one needed to open all the doors in the station. Good thing I got to this key as fast as possible with no issues, absolutely none, as we know Leon is waiting for me. It's a really important item to get to him. I check out Ada's other pathway, which leads me to an underground elevator. There's nothing down here for her except shotgun shells, and she doesn't even have a shotgun, so that's kind of useless, but okay. We head back to Leon and throw him the key in the shells, so it turns out there is a use for them.
Think fast.
She yells as she whips the ammo at Leon. The sound effect is brutal, and Ada leaves before Leon can say,
Ada, wait!
Looks like I'm alone again. I restock at the safe room on my way out, and it's time to use this final key. There aren't any spiders in the sewer anymore, which I'm very thankful for. I make my way back to the station and get ambushed by a liquor where the dogs originally surrounded me. Safe to say this hallway is simply bad luck for Leon. The club key opens up a set of double doors, and I enter a cremation room full of bodies. I double check each body to make sure none are alive and find a keycard in the back before getting ambushed by zombies coming out of the body holding drawers. And the scenario is made worse as they came out while I'm backed into a corner. The room is otherwise empty, so I head to that keycard locked door from earlier and head inside. There's an arms storage sign above the door, so I expect some really good weapons. I find a machine gun in an inventory expansion, which is good stuff, though Leon says he should save it for Claire. I didn't do that. I wonder how that will affect my future play experience. Otherwise, there's a bunch of ammo for guns I already have, which is always welcome. I head back to that empty alleyway to check out the sewer since I finally feel brave enough, and it turns out to be a complete waste of time. There's a safe room here, and then a hallway that leads to a dead end. There is an opening, but it's too large for an adult to enter, so I'm gonna wait for another playthrough to try that out. You know, they could have kept the 2 campaigns completely separate, but they didn't. I really like that I can find things regarding Claire's campaign and Leon's campaign, and I'm sure the opposite will happen while I'm playing as Claire. Since I have the club key, I head back up to the station to open the final doors. The first door is right next to the stairwell and leads to what might be a break room. There's water bottles and lockers and a bathroom, so I have to assume this is where the officers chilled for a bit. There's a dead cop on the ground next to some bunks, a freaking magnum, and a note. This note turns out to be the Watchman's diary next to who I assume is the Watchman's body. Police Chief Irons got mad at him for hanging out in the watchtower and neglecting his duties. While that sounds like a normal thing for your boss to yell at you for, the Watchman notes that the chief seemed angrier about him being in the tower than he was neglecting his duties. Turns out access to the watchtower was prohibited, which is suspect considering this is a watchman. You'd think you'd want him in the watchtower. The Watchman then describes Thomas, a man who works in the scrapyard out back. Thomas really loves chess. So much so that he designed a special set of chess-shaped locks and keys for one of the doors in the disposal yard. I guess that's why I keep finding random chess piece keys, but that still doesn't explain the suit-based keys. The Watchman goes on, stating that he made plans with Thomas to play chess. He's excited to play against this so-called chess legend, but is worried about one thing: Thomas's constant skin scratching. I assume he scratches his skin in a disgusting way, like rapidly scratching at one spot over and over again, because the Watchman is sincerely bothered by this, and I don't think skin scratching is normally that weird. Thomas was a fantastic chess player, as he had claimed, but during the game he wouldn't stop talking about eating food. Like, mentioned it a weird amount. He also looked kinda strange, whatever that means. Thomas then cancels their next game because he wasn't feeling too good. The Watchman described him as one who literally looked like The Walking Dead. The Watchman then states that he hasn't been feeling too good either. I wonder why that was his last diary entry. I go to another club key room in the East Wing, and turns out it's the final club key room. That also means all 4 suits of keys have been used up. I wonder how close I am to the ending already. Inside is the press room where the police chief would give his public statements. I find some undeveloped film on a desk and head to the back of the room for a puzzle. The puzzle's first step has me lighting a furnace, and next to it are 3 torches with the numbers 11, 12, 13 etched into each one respectively. I try 13, 12, 11, which turns off the flame and reveals that this is a hit things in the right order puzzle. Just to get it out of the way, I try 11, 12, 13 next. Surprise, that wasn't the code. From here, I use the process of elimination to try every combo and let loose this gear in the front of the room. You know, that undeveloped film probably had some sort of clue for this puzzle, but I found it fun just trying out the different combinations manually. I feel like that uses the same amount of time as running back to develop the film and getting back here, as long as you keep track of which combinations you're doing at least. With the gear in hand, I try to find that attic area where it belongs, but I get lost. The map is of little help since there's no room names anywhere, though I can somewhat make out the attic by swapping through the floors. During my travels, some zombies start swarming in from windows in a hallway. Interestingly though, these zombies aren't in the room I'm in. The game showed me something going on in another part of the station. I like how they did this now instead of when Leon enters that actual room, because showing it early means the player could forget it happened. They might get distracted with some other task and enter that hallway, expecting it to be safe as it has been before, but then get swarmed by a zombie horde. The player can't be mad at the game either. This wasn't a cheap trick. Capcom tells us to expect this trap coming, but it all depends on if we remember that cutscene or not. But back to Leon. I finally find the attic space and insert the gear, which turns on the machine that opens a hole in the wall. That hole contains another chess piece key, and a vent takes me all the way down to the basement. A nice shortcut to the chess key door too.
No! Get away!
We suddenly hear Ben scream and cut to him getting absolutely destroyed by some eyeball creature. I go to check it out and Ben is mad because he almost got the story. That story he reveals to be titled
Bitter Irony. The chief of police, a co-conspirator.
Ben hands Leon a sheet of paper and begs with his dying wish to make the chief pay. He starts burning up and is basically cut in half by some creature that busts out of his shoulder. Don't love that.
My chest! It's burning! What's wrong?
Good God, what was that?
Then Ada appears asking what happened, and we read what Ben gave us. A letter addressed to Mr. Brian Irons, chief of the Raccoon City Police Department. The letter opens by mentioning the mansion lab from the first game. It details how the lab was lost due to renegade operative Albert Wesker, but that this was only a minor inconvenience in the long run. Ha! Wesker would hate to hear he was nowhere near as important as he thought he was. Now, this unknown group's only concern is the STARS members Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, and a few others. The police chief is told to dispose of any STARS members that have any evidence of what happened at the mansion. And he has to make it seem like an accident, of course. The note is signed by a William Birkin, who ends the letter ordering the chief to monitor the STARS members' progress. A second letter from Birkin notes that he has deposited $10,000 into the chief's bank account, that the development of the G-virus is almost complete and is set to replace the T-virus, that Birkin is sure he'll be promoted to board member at Umbrella if he can pull this off. The letter ends on another note to continue monitoring the STARS members, as they're still attempting to uncover information regarding the project. Then there's a third letter. How did Ben get a hold of this stuff, and why didn't he tell anyone else sooner? This time, Birkin is throwing a tantrum because Umbrella HQ is spying on his G-virus research. He panics and tells the chief to detain any suspicious individuals throughout the city, and to contact him if they find any. A bit full of yourself, no? Thinking the world is after you? In this case, many probably were after him, but it's still fun to speculate that Birkin is more than a bit insane and self-involved. Ada runs off, saying she'll probably find John at the chemical plant. Oh yeah, I forgot she was looking for him. Leon radios Claire and says we have to access the back of the parking lot and asks her to come meet us in the sewer.
Do you read me, Claire? We now have access to the back of the parking lot.
Got it.
I'm getting out of here and heading to the sewer. Can you meet me there?
I'm on my way.
I do a quick save on the way and run in the sewage room to find that eyeball thing having a seizure on the ground. It starts growing arms and legs and morphs into this massive creature that sends out little dudes. The little dudes that I think killed Ben. I pull out that submachine gun and blow the thing to bits. Head over to the panel and realize I'm still missing one chess piece. What else do I have to do? I thought I cleared every room. After some thinking and running around, I suddenly remember Tyrannos the statue. I still have to find his other gem. I shotgun my way through the zombies that climb through the East Wing windows. Good thing I remembered that cutscene. On the way over, I developed that next roll of film, which is a picture of a man dead in front of a tailor. An attached note says he regressed to a zombie within 2 hours after constantly complaining about agitation in his epidermis alongside nausea. The photo was taken by R. Lambert. I thought that name sounded familiar from the first game, so I googled it and nope. Turns out this is his only role in the entire Resident Evil series, having his name listed under this photo. You did good, Lambert. We're still benefiting from your work all these years later. I do some clearing of rooms on this side of the mansion, hoping to find any trace of that second gem. I eventually run past the statues again and see the gem glowing in the big one's hand. How do I get this thing? The hint on the statue reads, "The god of sun and the god of moon. Their gaze upon me is the only thing that can release Red Soul." Well, next to him are two statues colored slightly like the sun and the moon. Also, this time I found a spot on the ground that, if I found the first time, I probably would have been able to solve this puzzle. It's next to the statues that reads, "Something seems to have been placed here." Pretty sure that means I should move the statues to these spots. By this point, I remember I can push objects once again, so I should probably apply that knowledge here. Of course, this means I have to move each statue the long way around, which I'm getting sick of in games, but that's a conversation for another time. And the gem releases. Imagine that. Along the way to Tyrannos, I opened a desk I missed before and found some handgun parts. It appears the parts are an extended mag and the ability to switch this pistol between 3-shot bursts and manual fire, which is awesome. Definitely sticking to the 3-round bursts. It takes me a bit to find Tyrannos again, but I finally get there, place the second gem, and the big boy's chest opens up to provide the final chess piece plug, the king plug. You know, if I did this puzzle at the beginning like I was quote-unquote supposed to, I'd probably be through that chest door already. After all, I think you're supposed to find the last plug up in the attic, drop down to the chest door, and be able to open it up from there. But I obviously didn't do that. I grab some herbs on the way to the chest door, and I open her up. Ada appears in the next room, and Leon yells at her for running off because there are zombies around, and she totally blows him off by being like,
I was there, Leon. I know.
He does then convince her to team up, and she starts following me around. I explore the room and find a water filtering machine, but otherwise there's nothing of note. We proceed through the sewers while making a ton of noise, and there are some blue herbs here, so my greatest fear is about to reappear. Ada and I find what seems like a control room, and here is a long letter to the sewer manager, basically giving them a calendar of future events to be ready for. Like, an important person will arrive on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of every month, or on the 28th we'll be transporting volatile chemicals, so get out of the way. The chief will come down every 2 weeks or so for a meeting, and next we get a pretty thought-provoking reveal that Birkin will come to the lab on the 4th Friday of every other month and conduct a training seminar for the Chicago branch of Umbrella Inc. Chicago, that's me! Since Birkin is so secretive, I wonder what this training seminar is. Could it be on what to do if the virus breaks out? That obviously didn't work. What about how to carry on his research in the long run? I'm very curious. But more imminently, Umbrella suspects an attack on Birkin. The sewer manager must take every measure conceivable to guard Birkin's life. They're really expecting a lot out of him. I wonder how well he's paid. If he gets drops of 10K in his bank like the police chief did, good for him. This might actually be worth it. Once the note is read, I save, re-up some items, and head on down the nearby lift. Right away we get into some shit. There's a scientist who runs and starts shooting at Ada, but Leon comes in to save the day and takes the bullet for her. What a hero. Look at this, just perfect form. Ada doesn't even say thank you to the passed out Leon. She just says his name and then she says she has to go talk to that woman. She just leaves his body there without saying anything else. I'm given control of Ada and maneuver through this area to get to the sewer water. As I'm walking, I hear little pounding sounds. Could it be? It is. The camera jump cuts and the spiders are back. As Ada, I only have the normal pistol, so I don't know how I'm gonna handle this. I pathetically battle a spider attacking on the ceiling and get cornered in a spot with 2 bloody bodies. One body is holding something, but Ada says she doesn't need that right now. Mental note to go back to this as Leon. See, I may miss some of the obvious game design nods, but I caught that one. It's an interesting choice to have players play as Ada again here. We think that Leon might be dead or at least gravely injured, and back in the day, I could see people thinking that Leon won't be in the rest of the game, that you'll play the rest of it as Ada in some sort of twist. With my knowledge of modern games, I was always pretty sure that Leon would come back to life and be perfectly fine, and that's what ends up happening. But anyways, instead of fighting, I head up a nearby ladder through the ventilation shaft when cockroaches start swarming. How are these PS1 looking pieces of shit still so creepy? It doesn't help that they scramble just as fast and make the same sounds as in real life. Man, Capcom really nailed the tone with this part, and it shows up for like 2 seconds. First spiders and then cockroaches. This makes me more uneasy than I already was, so props to them. Down the other side, I find an activated switch that only temporarily stops the fans. We're in a creepy area full of catwalks when Ada is suddenly shot at. Her gun goes flying, and there's even a little bit of blood, but Ada's unfazed. Literally nothing is bothering this woman. How? Maybe she should have taken that original bullet since she can just brush it off, and then Leon would be here with us. Ada just stands up straight and starts being threatened by the scientist, though she somehow knows Ada's name. She brings up that a guy came from Chicago to work on the T-virus during the time of the original game, and he used his girlfriend's name as the password. That's what you do in Resident Evil, that's a reference. You head to that PC in the lab and use John's name as the username and Ada's name as a password, and she's not even in that game. How cool. So it turns out John was real. I honestly thought he was made up. The scientist then reveals herself to be William Birkin's wife, Annette. Her husband helped create the T-virus from Game 1, and Annette is obsessed with making sure his work on the G-virus is safe. Damn, what a real one. Annette explains that the G-virus can create the ultimate bioweapon, and its potential is more than the T-virus. Well, considering they're making another one, I would hope its potential is stronger than the T-Virus. It's kind of like when Microsoft released the Xbox One X and they were like, it's the most powerful console ever. Well, if you're releasing another console, I would hope it's more powerful than the one beforehand. I thought that was such a dumb marketing gimmick. Anyways, Ada puts together that Ben was poisoned by William Birkin. Annette reveals that Umbrella tried to steal his research, and that's how Birkin was attacked and why he's not in the game right now. At least, not in his human form. We move to a cutscene and see some Umbrella soldiers hunting down Birkin, and the rest of the scene is a cinematic masterpiece. Open on a tub full of the G-Virus, we cut to Birkin, staring lovingly at his creation, and end on him saying,
"No one will ever take you away from me."
Notice how right here they cut below him so we're staring up into this evil man's eyes as he says these delirious foreshadowing words. But you know what? The way he's framed, I believe he believes no one will take it. He's looking at that thing more lovingly than I'm sure he does his wife, but his eyes also have an underlying layer of sinister, and it's honestly really impressive that Capcom could pull off such an emotion even in this low polygon cinematic. Seconds after, soldiers barge in and hold Birkin at gunpoint. Willing to give his life for his love, Birkin refuses to concede but trips over the counter and knocks some stuff over, which, from what I can tell, leads a soldier to think Birkin fired a gunshot. So the soldiers start shooting.
You might hit the sample. That's it, all right. Okay, let's move out.
They absolutely pelt Birkin with bullets, and he, for some reason, didn't even use the gun in his hands. Annette arrives to find the soldiers ran off with the G-Virus, and, well, her husband was just straight up gunned down. As Annette goes to grab bandages, Birkin reveals a small sample of the G-Virus serum he kept hidden. He shoots the serum into his chest, his eyes flash red, and we dramatically flash back to Annette in the present time. Again, a really good job with the emotions for such a low poly game. Look at how sad and resentful she is. The designers really emphasize parts of the human face we can connect with the most, even through these terrible graphics at the time. We cut back to the two Umbrella soldiers being taken out by a hidden monster and get a close-up of the thing feeding on its prey, but we don't see enough to discern what it is.
Shoot! Eat this, you freak! I'm stopping it! What is this thing?
Two other soldiers arrive to see a giant purple man eating their fallen brethren and open fire. Of course, the bullets do nothing as the monster charges them. We cut to a giant eye, then hear the man getting eaten. Oh, remember those soldiers that Ada found near the ventilation shaft? This is definitely what happened to them. So not only do we learn that Birkin is a zombie, having transformed from the syringe he injected, but he seems to have crushed all of the G-Virus samples in his rampage. We see a bunch of rats swarming the vials, which I assume will be the reason the G-Virus spreads so fast.
So those rats were the carriers of the virus.
Ah, nice. We learn that all G-Virus creatures can create offspring in other living creatures, which is what happened to Ben, and is also just one of the worst sounding things ever. And saying that really ticks off Annette as she re-raises her gun at us while yelling no. But Ada ain't no slouch. She grabs the gun, pointing it upward while the two wrestle for control.
No.
Then Ada decks her in the face, which I did not see coming. Annette falls over the railing and splashes into the sewers. I assume that part will come into play later. And all Ada says after supposedly murdering someone is,
"Too bad."
It's hilarious how little of a fuck she gives. Leon could really learn a thing or two. Injured but still ready to fight, Ada and I explore the rest of the catwalks and find a dead guy holding something, which is also left for Leon. Speaking of Leon, you'd think we should go check on him by now, but nah, that's not Ada's mission. Heading down a ladder, we hear a massive splash, see a cut to black, and hear Ada yelling. Leon, who is apparently fine despite having a bullet in his chest, gets up to go look for her, and we're back as our main man. I check out the soldiers that Birkin killed and find a wolf medal. Hey, one of these were in the first game. It opened the secret entrance to the lab. The other medal was a golden one with an eagle on it. I bet that's in this game too. Unlike with Ada, the fan is on full blast here, so I have to fight the spiders as Leon instead of running. But at least he has some decent guns to fight with, so I'm a little less scared. I wreck both of them trying to figure out why my pistol is still shooting single shot. Turns out I forgot to make the pistol on auto despite my intent to do so earlier. Weird. I find more spiders deeper in the sewer, which just sucks. Listen to that constant pounding, it's eerie as hell. but my auto pistol on the right setting absolutely drains these guys. Hey look, a control panel requiring a wolf and an eagle medal, imagine that. It looks like it controls this thick waterfall that I can't get past for now. I enter a door nearby and find the lower layer of that area Ada was in. I need a valve handle to access the room, which I have from earlier with the helicopter on the roof. But of course it's all the way in the storage box up the lift, because why the hell would I carry a valve around? This is Capcom. Using the valve lowers the bridge from Ada's floor to mine so I can cross the pit in the middle. On the other side is a typewriter and a green herb. How lovely. I enter the door there and stand still for about 10 seconds to listen for anything. And I hear nothing, which is honestly more terrifying than hearing any sounds. I say nah and look for other routes until realizing there aren't any. So to procrastinate, I lift that bridge back up just to see if I can, and then enter the tunnel. I decide it's best to just sprint through since I can't hear anything. I might as well face the monster head on. I find a high pressure gas cylinder that must be removed only during an emergency, and head to the end of the area to find Ada unloading at the water. Suddenly, a massive alligator jumps out and attacks Leon. When I was playing the game, I was like, did he just get munched on or was that a glitch? Looking back in the footage, Leon totally gets caught in between the teeth and straight up should have been bitten half. But instead he just goes, ugh, and it makes me laugh every time. This franchise is awesome. Now the tunnel is scary. I don't even try shooting the alligator, I just book it. Leon gets to that gas cylinder from before and we eject it from the wall. Ah, I get it, we're gonna shoot the thing to blow up the thing. I get way back just in case the explosion is massive, and we start unloading. I'm now at an angle where I can't see the gator, and after some shooting it just seemed like the cylinder didn't work. So I move up, and as I do, the game cuts to the gator's head being blown in half. There's a lot of halves in this game. Jesus, look at that body. Oh right, Ada. I head back to the pit to find it blocked by an emergency door. I activate it and walk into sewer water that's only waist high, so there's no way that alligator would have fit underwater. I'm calling BS. Leon crawls over to Ada and collapses, stating, "This bullet wound isn't making things any easier." Well, at least he acknowledged the bullet. Ada patches him up and kinda says thanks for stopping her death twice, but not really?
That's 2 I owe you.
Don't mention it.
I just found out. John's dead.
What?
Never mind. Let's just get out of here. The sooner the better.
And then she reveals that John is dead. She also immediately retracts that information before we get going again. Hey, good thing I rose that bridge up for my future self, huh? It's already here. Across the bridge I find a dead body with the Eagle Medal. Called it, and who I assume must be the dead sewer manager since his diary is right here. I'm just gonna refer to him as SM while reading. On June 28th, it turns out that SM met up with a coworker named Don. Don was sick in bed until yesterday at the time the note was written, so I assume Don was in bed a long time since SM doesn't exactly say when the absence started. SM states that he's not surprised Don was sick, as he worked in the sewers for so long, and honestly that would make anyone sick. That said, Don was scratching and sweating, which is a little weird. SM asked Don if he was feeling hot, and Don just stared at him. Maybe he wanted to eat him? July 7th is the next entry, with SM stating that Police Chief Irons has been in the lab a lot more lately, and that he always leaves looking grim, as in much more grim than usual, because let's be honest, imagine living in this right now. So something must be up. SM thinks it could be Birkin's ridiculous requests, but then he says that the chief doesn't deserve being treated like this because of all he does for the town. Wait, was the chief not always a cheat? Was he a good cop before Umbrella paid him off? Or maybe they blackmailed him and forced him into this situation? There's a random entry on July 21st about SM rarely drinking, which is kind of funny. But things get serious in the August 16th entry. Chief Irons has been looking even more grim, so the sewer manager tried cheering him up with a joke. Irons was so unamused that he pulled his gun and threatened to shoot. Imagine making a joke that bad that someone wants to shoot you. Understandably, SM wasn't a fan of that, especially since Irons needs him to enter the lab. SM is the one who holds the Eagle Medal after all. This is what it means for the chief to serve and protect, SM concludes with. On August 21st, man, this guy doesn't write in his diary much. Birkin told SM that the police and the media are investigating Umbrella, might even investigate the sewers, and that SM better keep any information private or he'll lose his job. Well, we can see here the man died from a bullet to the head. Maybe he was a zombie and somebody shot him, or he could have killed himself after all that's happened? Talk about grim, but we can be pretty sure that information was kept private. With both medals in hand and all the notes read, Ada and Leon head back through the fan vent, after slowing it down of course, and get back to the control panel by the waterfall. I put them both in and the water dissipates completely. A little dramatic, no? We head through the door and on the other side is a narrow walkway within a carved out tunnel. A door at the end of it leads to a sky tram of all things. We get inside, though I'm sure something bad is gonna happen here. Sky trams and horror are always a bad combination. Next thing I know, Ada gets slammed on the ground by a zombie fist through the ceiling. This thing hits her so hard that she goes limp, but then she just stands up again? I genuinely thought she got knocked out like Leon did earlier, but again, she gives no fucks, so good for her. We reach the other side of the tram and shoot a flare into the tunnel, which gives us enough light to see a door key in the corner. You know, that's a lot of effort just to find the key. Imagine if you worked here and had to do this every day. Screw coffee. Every morning here, you light off a flare in the freaking tunnel and actually damage your eyesight just to find the office key. A nearby door leads me into human-made reinforced tunnels. Then Ada and I have a James Bond moment aiming back to back, which was neat, and we kill a few zombies. That was all an in-game moment, not a cutscene. One way down the hall has some shotgun upgrades, but of course my inventory is full. To try and clear it, I attempt putting 1 green herb on top of 2 ground up herbs, and it worked. Did not expect that. Looking back, it totally makes sense you'd be able to stack 3 greens, as you can combine a red, green, and blue herb to create the ultimate heal, but for some reason 3 of the same herb just didn't register with me until right now. Point is, I got the shotgun parts. On the other side of that hallway, we find another hallway with another split, and more zombies. Watching the footage again, I realize I get a sick dodge, and Ada capitalizes on that to protect me. Another cool companion gameplay moment. Pretty sure Ada is smarter than most modern companions, but maybe it seems that way because the world here is less complex than a lot of modern games, such as open worlds, and she's also only a companion for a few brief moments, so there's less time for flaws to appear. We find more herbs before heading up a ladder on the other end of the hallway. Up here is a safe room with some ammo, heals and such, and I'm feeling pretty good, you know? I'm stocked up with everything I need, healed up, and have Ada with me. This is just a recipe for something to go wrong. Turns out we're in the middle of a factory, and there's a tram car outside. We get in and find some keys to turn the tram in another direction, and the factory starts lowering an elevator with us inside. Ada once again gets absolutely wrecked by the clawed monster, and is actually knocked out this time, which sucks, man. She was going strong. Leon tells her to snap out of it for some reason. Imagine you just got decked in the face and someone was yelling at you to snap out of it instead of, I don't know, asking if you're okay. I step outside to fight this MF and avenge Ada, and holy shit, it's Birkin. He's winning this fight, constantly whacking Leon and stopping me from taking any shots. You know, the game gave me some Magnum ammo a little bit ago, and looking back, they totally did that so I could use the Magnum here. It's just too bad that I don't carry it with me. Why don't I do that? I really should. Maybe it's because I'm playing on easy and didn't think I needed it. Anyways, Leon carries Ada to a safe room where she essentially confesses her love to him.
Welcome back. Hey, take it easy. We're inside Umbrella's secret lab. I'll go find something to treat that wound, so just rest here in the meantime.
But I'll only slow you down with these injuries. Go. Save yourself.
I told you, it's my job to look after you.
But you'll be in danger if you stay with me. I know I've only known you for a short period of time, but I really enjoy being with you.
To which Leon says,
And
then she says something that I cannot believe she feels after such a short time.
I know I'm not capable of caring about anyone, but I don't want to lose you.
We're leaving this place together. Wait here for me. I'll be right back.
Damn. Leon and I case the room for ammo and items, save, and head out. The music gets really dark and bassy here, so I'm not looking forward to whatever that means. We find the lab's generator, and of course the power is out in some rooms, but we can turn it back on by finding the main fuse. Another path leads us to the west side of the lab, and finally an open door. Looks like the room where everyone sleeps. I hear some gross noise that sounds kind of like chewing, and cautiously walk to the other side of the room to find some plant-shaped tentacles coming out of the wall. They're just flailing there all slimy. It's gross. I realized one dude was actually about to kill it since there's spilled oil everywhere next to some bodies. But guess what Leon has? A lighter. He has a lighter. You probably already realized that though. We set the creature ablaze and crawl through the vent afterward. Props to Leon, man, that's fucking gross. The next room has 2 advanced looking liquors, but the shotgun makes quick work of them, and I find 2 stacks of ammo in a container. Look at that! Otherwise, there's nothing useful in here aside from an ink ribbon. Man, this game is really giving me a lot of ammo. I can't wait to see how drastically that changes on higher difficulties. It feels like I don't even have to worry about ammo in this playthrough. In the previous room is a note with a username and password for the Culture Experiment room. Since this is just a temporary login, the username is guessed and the password doesn't exist, so that's kind of funny. Over by the computer is a laboratory security manual. The info here isn't anything too interesting, it's just detailing the lab's escape and safety measures in case of any emergencies. Also, since all of the lab's research is so classified, some people might be denied escape access, which is pretty fucked, but I'm not even too surprised at this point. Umbrella is just another corporation that doesn't care about its people. The computer has a switch that turns on an anti-BOW gas sprinkler, whatever that means, and this makes the room all green, but nothing else happens. Maybe that's what kills the plant in Claire's campaign, since she probably won't have a lighter. I head back to the safe room to resupply, and Leon immediately gets ambushed by a skinless zombie thing. A few more come out, and by the time I'm done, there are like 7 bodies outside this safe room. I hope Ada's okay, because Leon's as damaged as can be. I heal up, check the bed, and Ada is just gone, so that's cool. Once again, she goes off to do something assumedly reckless. Leon is gonna be so disappointed, but hey, that is how she likes to live life, so maybe he should chill a bit. Now to the lab's east side. We find a safe door with what looks like ice all over it, and look at that, the room inside is frozen over. We find a control box for super low temperature environments, which requires a superconductor fuse case before we can get it working. Turns out there's one right next to the console. We set the fuse inside, and a machine places some sort of tube into a holder, which unscrews the main fuse that's needed for the breaker system. I place it in, and the lab's power is back online. Time to check out all the doors I couldn't before this. I open a maintenance door in the west area to find 2 terrifying leafy creatures that hurt me when they're dead, and it's even more annoying when I check the previous rooms and come back to find 2 more live ones. I try using the lighter on its body, but that doesn't do anything, so I guess I have to leave them. Through the maintenance door are some green herbs and a giant tunnel with some plant creature covering the whole thing. Leon slides down a ladder to an even deeper part of the lab. Floor 5 to be specific. We fight off some advanced liquors, and I start thinking, maybe these green monsters are entities who have been infected by the G-Virus for way too long, just stuck down here without any exposure to the outside world. That could be why they're stronger and more vicious than creatures I fought in the station. One door asks for an MO disc like the first game, but I don't have one right now, so I head even deeper into the lab. Each room is looking more and more industrial as we go on, and it's just all so eerie. I don't like it. I finally find a map of the lab alongside an item box and typewriter, so I take great advantage of those, head into the next room, and enter complete silence. Leon and I stand there for a few seconds before the ominous music starts playing again. Turns out there's nothing in that hallway, so we move out to find yet more confusing rooms. Through one door, I finally get to use a weapon box key from earlier, which nets me some magnum parts. Next to here is a room basked in orange that leads to a testing center with a few zombies inside. Leon ends these hoes with that burst fire pistol, takes a bite to the leg, and finds an Umbrella lab card key, so that's pretty convenient. I use the keycard down a sack-filled hallway, only to find a sack-filled room with a massive moth that makes my body shiver out of disgust. We gun it down before it can make an attack, brush some of its larvae off the keyboard, and find the Culture Experiment Room's staff registry. This is where I put in the guest information from earlier, scan Leon's fingerprint, and become validated for 24 hours, whatever that means. It probably opens another room or something. I think I've done everything I can on this floor right now, so I head back up the long ladder to check out the east side of things. Opening up the maintenance door here reveals no enemies, thank hell. The game does love to play with expectations. Leon and I find a terminal that requires 2 employee fingerprints to open. Since Leon is registered as a guest, one of them works for some reason. I thought this was weird at first, that a guest fingerprint would open such an important seeming door, but I guess if you're down here already, you probably have some sort of clearance in the first place. Since I don't have a second fingerprint, I check another room nearby. I find some magnum bullets and a ton of zombies in the corner. The shotgun takes them out with no issues, but I ain't taking any chances with their bodies coming up to attack me. Always gotta double tap. I turn on the lights, which really would have helped before the fight, and find a terminal nearby called the Activator. It's for a base vaccine synthesis. A vaccine for the G-Virus, maybe? I assume that didn't work out since everyone here is still infected. I find an MO disc near the bodies, which is a welcome discovery, and head out to find Annette, who is somehow still alive, looks perfectly fine, and is very angry at Leon. I don't know how she got away from that alligator. Annette is mad at Leon for killing her husband, as if he was still her husband in that state, and she assumes we're now here to take his legacy, the G-Virus, before referring to Ada as a spy, which is news to us. And then another fantastic interaction takes place.
What?
You really don't know anything, do you?
Annette calls him gullible, and you know, it's kind of funny to imagine some 24-year-old lady yelling at a 21-year-old for being gullible. Annette did a background check on Ada, and while at first I was like, yeah, right, no way you could facilitate that. But thinking about it more, it's quite likely that the Birkins had the resources to conduct a background search on a supposed spy, and this isn't the worst idea to provide exposition for the player. Annette learned that Ada became John's boyfriend to learn about Umbrella, to which Leon, who has known Ada for about an hour now, replies,
That can't be. I know her. Ada wouldn't do something like that.
Unfortunately, he doesn't get a chance to reminisce on how stupid that sounded because Annette gets ready to shoot him. But before she can fire, a convenient earthquake starts and metal pipes fall out of the ceiling right on top of her head. Annette's face plants into the ground, and this looks like the end of her traumatic-seeming life. Leon searches her body to find the G-Virus. Then it turns out the self-destruct sequence has been initiated, and I'm assuming that's due to Ada or maybe Claire? I'm sure we'll find out eventually, but right now it just sort of happens. Another fun callback to the first game as well. The Umbrella Lab is going to blow and you have to escape. Back near the main battery, Ada appears, stating she's been waiting for me, but also aiming a gun in Leon's face.
I've been waiting for you, Leon.
What are you doing?
This poor guy can't go 5 minutes without a gun pointed at him. She demands the G-Virus while Leon becomes visibly disappointed in this woman he has known for less than half a day. Don't make me shoot you, she says. Leon calls her bluff with a simple, you can't do that, and to his credit, he's right, as Ada lowers her gun before getting shot by a somehow still alive Annette, who collapses into the ground in what I assume was finally her final act.
Ada! Ada! I've got you. Don't give up.
G-Virus.
She manages to mutter out one last G-Virus, though it honestly sounds like GG, which is 10 times funnier. Being shot in the shoulder, Ada falls over the railing, which seems a bit dramatic considering she's a trained spy and should know how to take a bullet in the shoulder, but Leon grabs her to save the day. Or so he thought.
Shut up,
he says, and the scene turns a little more romantic than I'm comfortable with.
Wait, Leon. We both know it.
No! I promised you that we would escape. You just have to help me out here.
I really wanted to escape with you, Leon. Escape from everything. Goodbye.
She lets go of Leon's hand, and Leon has an on-the-knees breakdown over it. He pulls out the G-Virus and makes a horrible pun before tossing the damn thing away for good.
So, this is what everyone's been dying for.
See, Leon gets it. If he kept the thing for research purposes, it would have certainly been lost and recovered by Umbrella. By destroying the virus, Leon totally removes any way for others to recover it, right? The Resident Evil story can just end here because the threat is basically taken care of, right? Totally. But there's still the self-destruct sequence to deal with. A robot voice announces we must escape to a train car at the facility's lowest level. I head back down the ladder covered by the giant plant and unlock a previously inaccessible door at the bottom using the ammo disc I found earlier. Behind the door is a vault entrance when suddenly a 5-minute self-destruct timer appears. I activate a lift and as it's lowering, an even more mutated Birkin appears. He's kinda easy to fight at first since he walks so slow, and I use the submachine gun to plow through his health. After a few clips of the submachine gun, Birkin transforms again, popping a mouth out of his chest. This latest edition of Birkin jumps on top of the surrounding pipes and hunts me from afar, though eventually he jumps down to try and finish Leon off. While I'm terrified fighting this thing, it's also kind of funny how Birkin keeps getting stuck on top of Leon's head. Despite getting munched on and hit a ton, Leon survives this thing long enough to kill it. And what appears to be the final Birkin mutation dies a slow death, and the elevator door opens with over 2 minutes to spare. Leon runs to the moving train, which already has Claire inside controlling it. He misses his chance to get on the car with her, but jumps on at the next opening. Or at least, I think he does. They don't actually show it. We just see Leon sort of slide out of camera and cut to an awkward view of the train sliding away. But then there's an explosion just as we're escaping, so I really hope he got there. We then cut to Leon inside the train and we find Claire with a little girl? Hopefully that's explained in her campaign? Leon heroically claims that it's over, but Claire disagrees. She still needs to find Chris and Leon drastically reverses course, stating that she's right.
This is just the beginning.
Leon heads to the front of the train where he utters his final words.
Goodbye, Ada.
End scene. Now, I know there's a Leon B campaign and Claire's 2 campaigns, so there's a lot to be revealed, but I'm gonna give my thoughts on what I just played. The game was way shorter than I expected, coming in at around 5 hours from my first playthrough, but then again, I was playing on easy, so I didn't really have a challenge. That'll change in future campaigns now that I'm used to the game. When I finished playing, I remember thinking, that's it? I didn't enjoy the playthrough nearly as much as I did Remake, at least not at first. But doing this video, analyzing every moment of the campaign and noticing all the neat design choices, cheesy dialogue, and fun gimmicks, I remember the game a lot more fondly. I really enjoyed looking back upon it, and I'm more excited than ever to get to the other campaigns. I know they're gonna flesh out my thoughts even more. I liked the puzzles that took me a while to figure out, and Leon's innocent, well-meaning behavior was a funny contrast to the dark nature of the rest of the game. And realizing my feelings on games is the reason I do these videos in the first place. To reminisce and give certain games a critical examination, allowing myself to process my thoughts and understand what I liked and disliked on a piece-by-piece basis. Eventually, whenever I decide to make my own game, I know that these retrospectives will provide me a lot of insight. Now it's time for Leon's B campaign. Or is it Claire's A campaign? I'll have to look it up and see. I imagine that video will be shorter than this one, as I won't be going over duplicate content in detail, unless, of course, there's a significant change in the other's campaign. Otherwise, that's about it. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and as always, let me know what you thought of my thoughts in the comments below. Y'all are the best around.